The Texans and the Colts, another playoff game by all means.
Who would have seen that coming?
Oh my gosh, unbelievable. Week 2, when these two teams played, you said, hey, that Week 18 matchup in Indy, yeah, that'll be for the playoffs. Winning in, losers out. That Week 2 game, the Colts won 31-20. Hard to have too many takeaways because both these teams have grown in completely different ways. Anthony Richardson started that game, got off to a hot start, and then got hurt. I remember my fantasy team, he had like 18 points in the first 5 minutes of the game. I thought it was going to blow out whoever I was playing. Then he leaves with an injury. And the Texans, we've just seen them have one of the more unprecedented runs in recent memory in the NFL. CJ Stroud was great in that game. He had like 300 yards or something, 2 touchdowns. But Gardner Minshew, I feel like this Colts team has gone under the radar the entire season. And it would feel almost fitting for them to go up against the young, upcoming NFL darling Texans and find a way to beat them at home and go to the playoffs, continue to fly under the radar. But I have trouble believing fully in Indianapolis with their up and down performances over the past 4 weeks. When you look at the Colts, Ziggy, I know we've been very pro-Texans on this show, but when you look at the Colts, are you concerned about Minshew in a big game? Do you trust him?
I think you have to be concerned about Minshew in a big game. He gets a lot of love from fans, and I get why. But the fact is he is a prototypical backup quarterback. He is capable of playing very well, and there are plenty of games where he does. But he is capable of having games where you look at him and squint and say, is that guy really playing in the NFL?
Yeah, he does.
And you compare him to someone like CJ Stroud, who you squint and think, is that guy playing in the NFL because he looks like an alien who doesn't belong on the field. It's just a completely different situation. This Texans defense has been surprisingly good. They've been able to get to the quarterback when they really need to. The Colts run game hasn't been quite what people expected, despite having a bit of a bounce back when Taylor came. If Minshew wants to win this game, he's going to have to put it on himself and get a lot done on the offense. And I'm just not convinced we're going to see that this week.
And the Texans' run defense this year is 4th in the NFL at 88.5 yards per game allowed. Derrick Henry really struggled last week. And Henry and the Titans have their own issues. But the Texans have had a good run defense. People keep talking about Jonathan Taylor, how he owns Houston. He didn't play in that Week 2 game. He hasn't seen this year's Texans. So it's fun to look back and say, yeah, the Colts are 4-0-1 when Jonathan Taylor plays against Houston, and he's gone for 158 total yards, 2 touchdowns, 143 and 2 touchdowns, 175 and a touchdown. The numbers are crazy, but that's a different Texans team. You can't compare last year's Texans to this year's Texans. So if this game's going to come down to, all right, let's see who can win in the passing attacks, because both these secondaries are just okay, I'm betting on CJ Stroud every single time, and that's not even close to me. You go back and watch him last week returning from the concussion. Some of the throws that this guy makes every single week are just unbelievable. I mean, the guy makes Nico Collins and Noah Brown, Dalton Schultz look like number 1 weapons. Go through the list of the top 10 offenses in the league. You have Miami, San Francisco, Detroit, all of them loaded weapons. Baltimore, Lamar, very good weapons. Buffalo, Josh Allen, Diggs, Dallas, CD, the Rams, Cooper Kupp, the Eagles loaded, Chiefs have Patrick Mahomes, and at 10 is Houston. So all those teams either have loaded weapons or an elite quarterback, and the Texans have CJ Stroud. That's why they're there. So I'm pushing all my eggs on the Texans train, even though the Colts have somehow found a way to be in this position and very well could go to the playoffs. I wouldn't be surprised at all. But my confidence is with Stroud, with the superstar. And it sounds like you are with me.
I mean, look, Paul, it's the Texans on the road in the division. The Texans have won 7 straight on the road in the division.
Sheesh.
They're going to make it 8. And I mean, I will say there's some good news for the Colts, right? Importantly, Quentin Nelson practiced in full today. There was some worry he wouldn't be able to play, especially with Ryan Kelly in a boot looking like he'll be out. That Colts offensive line, if the Colts do want to win this, that's going to be a key. When this team's been good, it's because the offensive line has been good. It's given Minshew time. It's helped the run game. you need difference makers like Quentin Nelson to play if you're the Colts. So the fact that he's coming back gives them some life. As weird as it is to talk about a guard in that way.
No,
Paul, you and I
right.
know from our Notre Dame days.
Oh, dude.
He's one of those difference makers.
Dude, I remember when we were freshmen looking up the Jumbotron, they had a graphic of Quentin Nelson. Like, I think he set some sort of ND record, and he was just flexing, and my jaw hit the floor. I've never seen a human being that big. We used to have guys who watched video on Quentin Nelson. You know, our friend Max Hammersmith, who used to do the show with us back at school, and he said when they watched film on Quentin Nelson, everyone in the room just shut up and enjoyed what they were watching, because this guy is he's different. He is a different animal. There are NFL players, and then you said there are aliens. He's an alien. And that Houston defense, we saw what they did to Tennessee last week. They were all over Ryan Tannehill and Will Levis when he was in. Yeah, the Colts offensive line is a huge role in this one. Again, we talked about how good the Texans run defense has been. The Colts offensive line plays a pivotal role in this. Zach, did you have Michael Pittman on your fantasy team this year?
In your uncle's league, yeah.
In one league?
Yeah.
He's quietly, I saw some stuff today about how good of a season he's having.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. What would you? Did you start him most of the time? I'm trying to remember.
Did he get the?
He should have. He had like 1,100 yards.
He had a great year.
Yeah,
he had a great year.
I might have been starting him. I know it was Jacobs towards the end of the year. I didn't start him as much because I remember. Sutton started going off. So I could play Sutton over it.
It's just funny though, because Michael Pittman was kind of like the entire Colts team to me a little bit, where I knew he was playing well, but I didn't realize how good of a season he was having. And that's kind of the whole Colts team. You look back, you go, wow, like, yeah, they're 9-7 playing for double-digit wins in a year where Gardner Minshew started almost the entire season. Yeah. So
and they
really
feed
impressive.
off this, right? Don't the Colts absolutely love that they're 9-7 playing for a playoff spot, and no one is giving them any respect. Everyone, no one is. And we're guilty of this too. Everyone's fawning over CJ Stroud and the Texans offense and talking about how great that's going to be, and maybe it is. But when it comes to playing a must-win game at home for the playoffs, you can't count the Colts out, even though I really want to.
No way. The past 4 weeks, though, they got blown out by the Bengals, blown out by the Falcons, and then blew out the Steelers and just beat the Raiders last week. So, you're not sure who you're going to get, and that's why I look at quarterback as the first thing most people look at. Stroud, yeah, we'll take that.
So, question.
Yeah.
Do you think the Colts are in the same position with Anthony Richardson?
If Richardson had been healthy?
Had been healthy this whole time. Do you think we're still in the same conversation?
Yeah, I think Richardson would have gotten very good by the end of this year.
It's just so hard to say how he would have developed. This is one thing about this season that I think is a little unfortunate for the Colts, is that the Texans had the season the Colts wanted to have, where your quarterback comes in, starts out a little rough, and then grows very quickly into an elite playmaker. The Colts don't know what Richardson would have been, but based on what we saw in those first few games, I know the offense would have looked totally different, but the man he looked like Cam Newton out there for a minute.
Yeah.
It's so hard for me not to say that they would have done well with him as opposed to Gardner Minshew, who's been up and down.
I would have expected Richardson to play closer to Stroud than Bryce Young. Now, he probably wouldn't, Stroud's been one of the best rookies of recent memory. I don't know if we would have got that. It's hard to predict that. But I would be more confident in Anthony Richardson playing like an above-average quarterback than making the mistakes that we've seen in Carolina this year from Bryce. But it's a fun question to think about. Next year is going to be like Indianapolis is a team to circle next year. That division is going to be fun to watch for a long time with the young quarterbacks there.